So we begin concept of limit of a function. So I hope you are able to see the screen clearly.
Yes, sir.
So this is concept of the limit of a function at a point. So let's begin. So let us take one function. Okay, the simplest of examples that is given. So let us take a function f of x is equal to say x plus 2. All right. Now we want to study this function as x approaches a particular value. So let's say as x approaches 2, we write this as we read it as x tends to 2. Now what does that mean? It means like this. This is x value, this is f of x values we will write. Now x is tending to 2, that is x is approaching the value 2. What we can do, we can approach from the left. So here I write as x tends to 2 minus. Approaching from the left means I am approaching 2 from the values less than 2. So on the number, in the number line, so let's see here. This is the graph of the function. So okay. So this is the line y equal to x plus 2, or f of x is equal to x plus 2. And so on the real number line, or on the coordinate axis, which consists of two real number lines, so we are marking okay. So now let's look at this. Now as x tends to 2 minus, that means x is approaching the value 2 from values lesser than 2. So x is say 1.9, 1.95, 1.99, 1.995, 1.999. What happens to f of x? It approaches x plus 2. It becomes 3.9, 3.95, 3.99, 3.995, 3.999. Okay, that means as x is approaching 2, f of x approaches the value 4. Okay, this is 2 minus, so this is also values slightly lesser than 4. Now let us consider this. Suppose we approach 2 from values greater than 2, 2.1, then we come close 2.05, then 2.01, 2.005, 2.001. So we are approaching to x is going towards 2 from values greater than 2. Okay, what happens to f of x? It becomes 4.1, 4.05, 4.01, 4.005, 4.001, so on. So this is approaching 4. So here, look at this graph. As x approaches 2 from the left, the function value approaches 4. Okay, this value is 4. Similarly, when we approach 2 from the right side, okay, the function value is approaching 4 again. If from both sides the function value, so this part we write this as limit x tends to 2 minus f of x is equal to 4. Remember, when we write it as equal to, but what it means is as x tends to 2 minus f of x tends to 4. For the function, we don't worry about whether it is approaching from the left or from the right, but we should have an idea. Here it is values lesser than 4. Okay, we read it, actually it is as x tends to 2 minus f of x tends to 4. Remember, f of x is not equal to 4. F of x is only tending to 4. So limiting value means that it is not equal to, it is approaching a particular value. Now, similarly, for this portion, we denote this as limit x tends to 2 plus of f of x is equal to 4. And what it means is as x tends to 2 plus f of x tends to 4. So now both this we know, we call this as the left hand limit, and this is the right handed limit. So if left hand limit is equal to the right hand limit, then we say the limit exists. If left hand limit LHL is equal to the right hand limit, then limit exists and is equal to the value of whatever the value is. Okay, so then we write limit x tends to 2 f of x exists, and in this case it's equal to 4. Okay, so in this particular case it is equal to 4. This is the fundamental concept of limit said in a very simplistic and easy manner. Okay, for any function, if I am approaching a particular value in x, what the value does f of x approach? F of x may not be equal to that value, but f of x is approaching that value. Sometimes it can be, for a constant function, it can be equal to that value. So this is the fundamental concept of limit. Now let us take another example. This was example 1. Now let us examine this one, example 2. F of x is equal to modulus of x minus 2 upon x minus 2 if x is not equal to 2, and it is equal to 0 for x equal to 2. Now let us plot this function. Now we know when x is greater than 2, for x greater than 2, mod of x minus 2 will be equal to x minus 2, because x minus 2 will be positive. Modulus of a positive expression will be the expression itself. Now for x less than 2, modulus of x minus 2 will be equal to, tell me, yesterday we discussed this, modulus of x minus 2 will be equal to negative of this. Yesterday we discussed mod of x when x is negative is equal to minus x. So clear? So what happens? This function is now split into 3 parts piecewise. So when x is greater than 2, we get x minus 2 upon x minus 2. We'll get the value 1. When x is equal to 2, the function is already defined as 0. When x is less than 2, the function will be minus of x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. This modulus of x minus 2 becomes minus of x minus 2, so you get minus 1. So at x equal to 2, now if we plot the graph, this is 1, this is minus 1. So when we plot the graph at x equal to 2, it is 0. And beyond that, it is, okay, I'll use a different color. When x is greater than 2, the function value is constant equal to 1. When x is less than 2, the function value is minus 1. Okay. Now at x equal to 2, the function value is 0. Now, yeah, for all values of x less than 2, the function value is minus 1. All right. So now tell me, limit, right? I'll write the left hand limit. Limit as x tends to 2 minus of f of x. What will it be? What will it be? Limit x tends to 2 minus this modulus of x minus 2 by x minus 2. Because x is a value slightly lesser than 2, this will be negative. So minus of x minus 2 upon x minus 2. So the value here, you get these two cancel because x is not equal to 2. Remember, if x were equal to 2, you cannot cancel. It will be exact 0 upon 0. Here it is not exactly 0. It is a number close to 0, but not exactly equal to 0. So you can cancel off the 2. So you get minus 1. So here you can see, as we approach x from the left, the function value is a constant and it is equal to minus 1. It is not just approaching minus 1, it is equal to minus 1 in all cases here. Similarly, now the right hand limit, limit x tends to 2 plus f of x is equal to limit x tends to 2 plus modulus of x minus 2 upon x minus 2. Yeah, this becomes positive. X minus 2 is positive because X is approaching 2 from values greater than 2. So X is greater than 2. So this will be positive. Upon the same positive number, you get plus 1. So here you see, as we approach 2, as X approaches the value 2 from values greater than 2, 2 plus, the function is throughout a constant is equal to plus 1. So left hand limit is minus 1, right hand limit is plus 1. So in this case, we say the limit of f as x tends to 2 does not exist. It does not exist. Clear? So this is the fundamental concept. They are more formal and difficult definitions, which we need not worry about, but I'll just brief you about it, what those definitions are. But this is the fundamental concept. Graphically, you can understand very easily. So here, just graphically, if you have a graphical idea, immediately you can mark right hand limit is plus 1, left hand limit is minus 1. Okay, if you have good grip over graphs. So limit means as x approaches a particular value, what value does the function approach? If it approaches two distinct values from the left and from the right, then the limit does not exist. If it approaches the same value, then the limit exists. So here is the formal definition of limit. Okay. This is a very involved mathematical definition, and generally people don't understand this or they just ignore it. And truly, for exam point of view, you can ignore it, but concept point of view, it is an excellent concept. The way limit has been defined is something super excellent, this definition. Now, see, generally, for greater detail, you should watch one of my videos on YouTube on neighborhood of a point. What do you mean by neighborhood of a point? It is around 10 minutes video. You watch. I've explained in a great detail. But in a short way, I will summarize. See, when I say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, and let's say a and say minus a. So when I say mod x is equal to mod x is equal to 2, which means x can be value 2 or minus 2. Okay, x can either be plus 2 or x can be equal to minus 2. So it represents these points. So mod x can mean, you can take it as the distance of this point from the origin, which is 2. This distance is also 2. So mod x refers to that point which is at a distance from origin. And what is that distance? Mod x equal to 2 means that distance is 2. So you get 2 points, 2 and minus 2. All right. Now when I write mod x less than a, modulus of x is less than 2, it means it is set of all points which are at a distance of less than 2 from the origin. So you can see this. So when x is greater than 0, you get x mod x is replaced by x if x is greater than 0. And if x is less than 0, mod x will be minus x, which implies x is greater than minus 2 for x less than 0. All right. So together, these two inequalities together, what it means, x is greater than minus 2 but less than 2. So it is set of all values of x which are lying within between 2 and minus 2. So this is what it means. This entire area is modulus of x less than 2, means this. All right. Now similarly, we will when we choose with respect to a point A, all right, and let's say this is x, modulus of x minus A is nothing but the distance between x and A on the number line. Okay. Now, modulus of now just see this, modulus of x minus A equal to delta means, just see this, I have 2 points of x such that its distance from A is equal to delta. So I get 2 points, A plus delta and A minus delta. Okay, this is delta, this is delta. So modulus of x minus A equal to delta refers to these 2 points, A plus delta, A minus delta and A plus delta. There are 2 values you get for this. However, when you write modulus of x minus A less than delta, it refers to this entire region. This means x lies between A minus delta and A plus delta. You can expand and see just the way we did like this. So it refers to this entire region. This is called as the neighborhood of A, or this we call as the delta neighborhood of A. All right. Now, when x is equal to A exactly, this value will be 0. Mod of x minus A will become 0 when x is exactly equal to A. So otherwise modulus is always positive, but it can be 0 when x equal to A. So what here this expression means is 0 less than x minus A modulus less than delta, means x cannot take the value A. Everything else is the same except that x cannot take the value A. So this implies x takes the value x takes all values except A, this one. So you get A minus delta to A union A to A plus delta. In the previous case, it was A minus delta to A plus delta, x was taking, but here it is not taking A. That is the only difference. This is called as your deleted delta neighborhood of A. Okay. So now let us understand this definition now. So let f be function defined in the deleted neighborhood of A, because to find limits we are approaching a particular point. Like in the previous example we took, x was approaching 2, it was not equal to 2. So it doesn't matter whether x is equal to A, but x is approaching A. So we choose a neighborhood of A other than the point A. So if a function is defined in the deleted neighborhood of A and L be a real number, now for every positive epsilon, however small, there exists a positive delta such that, okay, now let us understand this definition, such that as long as function value lies in the neighborhood of L, epsilon neighborhood of L, okay, such that x lies in the deleted neighborhood of A. So this what definition it says is, as long as x lies in the deleted neighborhood of A, function value lies in the neighborhood of L. Okay, what does this mean? Modulus of f of x minus L less than epsilon. It means that f of x lies between L minus epsilon to L plus epsilon. Okay. So if the function, if x lies in the deleted neighborhood of A, function will lie in the deleted neighborhood of, in the neighborhood of L, where delta is approaching 0 and epsilon is approaching 0, very, very small. As delta approaches 0, epsilon should also approach 0. That's the idea. If this happens, then we say that limit x tends to A, f of x is equal to L. Now, why such a definition has to be given? This question, why such a definition has to be given? Why such a complicated definition? Because our definition of limit should accommodate all types of functions. So here for this function, it is very, very easy. All right. So if I am in the neighborhood of 2 here, the function value is in the neighborhood of 4. No problem. So here very clearly limit x tends to 2, f of x is equal to 4. All right. Okay. But why such a complicated definition then? The way we understood limits was much easy. This definition makes it very confusing. True, it will make confusing, but it has to accommodate all types of problems. So let us take just a second. Okay, let us take a graph of sine 1 upon x. This is the graph of sine 1 upon x. All right. You see, sine 1 upon x is a very peculiar graph. We know sine values lie between -1 and 1. Okay. Now, as x increases, 1 by x tends to 0, no problem. As x becomes very large, negative value, that means tending to minus infinity, again this will be tending to 0, no problem. So sine values will approach 0. But when x approaches 0, 1 by x tends to infinite values. See the graph, how it is. Very interesting is, you keep going closer and closer, the graph becomes denser and denser. Sine 1 by x. You go closer and closer, the graph becomes denser and denser. And when you approach 0 very, very close, the graph oscillates very vigorously, very fast. All right. Now, to this, if we apply the normal logic, I am approaching, x is approaching 0 from the right. What does sine 1 by x, my function, approach? Where will it approach? I don't know. I cannot say, because it can be, it is oscillating so fast at that particular point. It can be 1, it can be -1, it can be 0, it can be some value in between -1 and 1. It is so, from here a small delta change I make in value of x, my value of function oscillates between -1 and 1. So that is why for functions like this, when you say x is in the delta neighborhood of 0, function value is not in the neighborhood of 0. Although it is oscillating, the condition for this definition is epsilon, if it is reducing, if delta is reducing to 0, then epsilon must be reducing to 0 and vice versa. But this phenomena cannot be seen in sine 1 by x graph. The reason being, as x approaches 0, as x is in the neighborhood of 0, sine 1 by x is oscillating widely. It varies between -1 and 1. Your epsilon value has to be very, very, very small, proportionate to delta, but that doesn't happen. That is why the limit of sine 1 by x does not exist at x equal to 0. It has a oscillatory discontinuity. So, of course, this at intermediate level, this example cannot be given. Only now that you are in a degree level, this example will make a better sense now. So that is the reason why this definition is given, to accommodate all kinds of functions. And this is a very foolproof and very mathematically sound definition. However, for us, for most practical problems in engineering and our mathematical problems, we don't have to worry so much. We will get functions like this, where it is very clear when you approach x from the left, x approaches 2 from the left, your value approaches 4, x approaches 2 from the right, value approaches 4. Or you will get a discontinuous function like this. When x approaches 2 from the left, function value is -1, and when x approaches 2 from the right, function value is 1. At best, we'll get problems like this. So that is how we should understand limits. Okay. So we don't have to, although for completion, I just dwelled this much time on neighborhood concept. But this concept of limit is something very important. People just learn formula, and that's why they struggle in the entire calculus. Limit of a function is a building block for the entire calculus, because your derivative is defined as limit. Your integral is defined as limit. So limit concept is something very, very fundamental. Now, let us, so for most functions, for most algebraic functions, now if a function is continuous and say f of a is equal to L, and function is continuous. So generally, in general, limit as x tends to a, f of x will be equal to L. All right, example. Limit x tends to 2. The function I will write as x square minus 9. Now, you don't have to go by left hand limit, right hand limit. In this particular case, it's a direct expression. When you go either by the left or the right, because it's an algebraic expression, both will tend to the same value. So this you can directly substitute 2 square minus 9, which is minus 5. Okay. But a question comes in solving indeterminate forms. So when a function indeterminate forms, other than indeterminate forms, if this holds, if limit f of x as x tends to a equal to L holds, then limit, if this holds true, then limit x tends to a, you can write some a into f of x plus b will be equal to a times L plus b. That's it. It is just a matter of substitution. So many times students confuse. What is this function? Limit means just we have to substitute that value in the function. And yes, it is true, you will get the limit value. But remember, it means that as x is approaching a, this particular expression, a f of x plus b, is approaching this value, a L plus b. Okay. What the problem arises? The problem arises when dealing with indeterminate forms. What are these indeterminate forms? I will come to these expressions soon. These are indeterminate forms of the function. When x approaches a particular value, the expression approaches one of these forms. So suppose f of x is numerator by denominator. For example, x square minus 4 by x minus 2. Now, when x is approaching 2, what happens? Numerator is going to 0, denominator is also going to 0. If only numerator went to 0, numerator upon denominator will be 0. If numerator was not 0 and the denominator is going to 0, then you will get infinite. The value tends to infinity. Okay. But it is 0 upon 0. So whether the function approaches 0 or the function approaches infinity or the function approaches a finite value. That is why this form is called as an indeterminate form, because we have to evaluate by mathematical logic. Directly we cannot say. Okay. And remember this numerator by denominator, very, very important. Numerator is not equal to 0. Denominator is not equal to 0. Both these expressions are tending to 0. They're not equal to 0. This is a fundamental thing in understanding limits. The function values are approaching a particular value. It is not equal to that value. Okay. When you know this, you can solve the problem. Now the same thing I use as x tends to infinity. I apply the limit here, x tends to infinity. So numerator, infinity means a huge number. It is x is tending to infinity. X is not equal to infinity. Infinity is an undefined quantity. But x is tending to infinity means x is going 10 power 100, then 10 power 1000, 10 power 10,000. It is going on like that. So then x square minus 4 will also approach infinity, because this will go huge number. X square 10 power 10,000 means x square, if x is 10 power 10,000, x square will be 10 power 20,000 minus 4. Denominator x is 10 power 10,000, very huge number, minus 2. It will again be a very large value. So you get an infinity by infinity form. Again, infinity by infinity form is indeterminate. Why? Because we do not know whether which the numerator is fast approaching infinity or denominator is fast approaching infinity. All right. Whichever is faster, that will be dominant. So if numerator is approaching faster than the denominator, then the limit will be infinity. If the denominator is approaching faster than the numerator, then the limit will be 0. If both are approaching at the same rate, infinite value, you will get a constant. So that is why these are called as indeterminate forms. Okay. So how to evaluate these indeterminate forms? So we will do that now. First, we will take some simple algebraic functions, algebraic limits, before we go into the standard limits. I will start a problem solving session. Okay. Now, acha. See, let us take this example. Evaluate this. Limit x tends to 2, x square plus 5 upon x square minus 3. So what right now, what I want all of you to do is, I hope all of you are either watching from the mobile or from your laptop. I have created a quiz session on a platform called Class Time. So you just type this, because in Zoom I'm not able to in Zoom I'm not able to give polls with mathematical questions. So I have chosen this. Go to classtime.com. Everybody right now. I will also go along with you in an incognito mode. Just a second. Yeah. So type classtime.com. Is everybody doing that? Please tell me. I'll this is a participative learning. So as I solve problems, you are also solving the problem, and I'll get to know how many of you are solving properly. That is the reason why. So now I will send you a code. You just see the code, just see the screen. You note down the code. Just a second. Yeah. So I'm starting the session. Your code is this capital D W G G N2. You please enter here. D W G G N2. So in this place, you enter this again. DWGGN2. Shall I send the link on WhatsApp, or you please note down? DWGGN2. Everybody with me? Okay. Now it will, when you log in, it will ask for your name. So just type a name. Don't have to join with Google today. Later I will give you, I will make you join as a student in Google through. Okay. So you will get here, and as soon as I activate a question, you will get to see the question. So let me see. So how many students have joined? There are 24 participants other than me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Another 10 students have to log in. Please log in. Please log in. Okay, 16. Good. 17. Do it quickly. Okay, now one by one, as soon as I put a question, I want all to join. Only 16, 24 means other than me and my moderator, 22 students. So another 5 students. Rakesh, Srikanth has joined. Yeah. Saurabh, he has joined. Satyashri joined. Ramesh. Okay. Another 4 students, please join. Please join quickly. Don't waste time. Again, if you are not remembering the code, it is here. DWGGN2. Okay, go to that and join. Classtime.com, DW capital D capital W GGN2, and enter your name and join. Okay. Now go to the class time. I have activated question 1. So this is what you will see now. Okay, on your screen. So now please answer. Please answer this question. X square, limit x tends to 2, x square plus 5 by x square minus 3. Please answer this question quickly. So on your class time screen, you please answer this question. Okay, so already I'm getting answers. Few more students to answer. Please attempt, even if it is mistake, doesn't matter, you just answer. So, yeah, good. So everybody answered correct. Everybody answered this correct. So it is very simple. This was a simple example where there was no 0 by 0 form involved. So when you substitute x equal to 2, you will get 2 square plus 5 is 9. And 2 square minus 3 is 1. So 9 upon 1, you get the answer 9. Okay. So, sorry. You get the answer as 9. All right. So this was the first problem. Second question. Look into this question now. So you have got second question. So on the screen, you go and choose your second question. Here in the side, second question. Now please answer this question. Limit x tends to 1, x upon 1 minus x. Limit x tends to 1, x upon 1 minus x. What is the answer? So I am seeing answers. Many students have given correct, some wrong. Good. Two more, please answer. One more, please answer. Okay. So good. Now the answer to this, let us see. Most of you have answered right. Now as x tends to 1, the denominator goes to 0. Numerator goes to 1, denominator goes to 0. Now the limit, what is the value of limit? Anybody in the chat, you can say, although you can say in the chat, what is the value in the value of the limit? What is left hand limit value? What is right hand limit value? Anybody? Unmute and say. You can share. Unmute yourself and share.
So both left and right hand values will be equal.
No. If it is equal, the limit exists. See here. Now let us evaluate left hand limit. Now as x tends to 1 minus, that is, it is value lesser than 1, then 1 minus x. So x is having a value lesser than 1. So 1 minus x will approach 0, but with positive values. Say x is 0.99. Then 1 minus x will be 0.01. So it will be 0 plus. So denominator will be positive. All right. Right hand limit, x tends to 1 plus, then 1 minus x. This x now is 1 plus. It is approaching 1, but value slightly greater than 1. For example, 1.01. X is taking the value 1.01. Then 1 minus 1.01 will be minus 0.01. So X will approach 0, but from values lesser than 0. Okay, negative values. So when you do left hand limit x tends to 1 minus x upon 1 minus x, numerator is going to 1. No problem, it is a positive value. It may be slightly lesser than 1, doesn't matter, 0.9999 like that. But denominator is approaching 0 with positive value. Okay, so this is something like 0.9999 upon 0.0001, something like this. All right, and now as x tends to 0, this value keeps going like this. So what happens? This value tends to infinity, plus infinity. Okay, you don't have to do this numbering system. Just to give you an idea, I'm giving you. This numerator is approaching 1. Denominator is approaching 0, but it is a positive value. So the number you will get, the limit you will get is plus infinity. So this function approaches positive infinity. Whereas the right hand limit x tends to 1 plus x by 1 minus x. Numerator is approaching 1, but denominator is approaching 0, but with values lesser than 0. Denominator is negative. Denominator is negative. So the same thing you will get, let's say, you will get 1.000001 divided by minus of 0.000001. So now you approach a huge value. If you take out the decimals, this is going to be a huge value, but with a negative sign. Understand? So the right hand limit is going to minus infinity. Because the left hand limit is not equal to right hand limit, the value, the limit does not exist. If both the left hand limit and the right hand limit were tending to infinity, then the value should be infinity. The limit should be infinity. That means limit exists, but it is going to an infinite value. Is that clear? Is that clear to everyone? So the answer here, because left hand limit and right hand limit does not exist, they are not equal, so it doesn't exist. All right. So options didn't have infinity. If the options had infinity, you would be confused. All right. So now let us do another one. Go to the third question. Okay. So choose the third question from your list. I hope you are able to see that. Limit x tends to 1, x minus 1 into under root of 2 minus x upon x square minus 1. Okay, answers have started coming in. Good. Few more, 4 or 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 students have to answer. One more. One more student has to answer. Please answer. Even if you make wrong, no problem. Don't get tensed. This is just to help you be fully active and learn in the class itself. That's all. All right. Please give some answer. So now let's look at this question. Now, here, numerator, the first factor as x approaches 1, x minus of 1 will approach 0. Multiplied by the second factor is a under root of, it's a third under root of 2 minus x. As x tends to 1, 2 minus 1 becomes 1. So this under root 1 will approach 1. So no problem. So this first term goes to 0, second term goes to 1, the third term goes to 0. So it is a 0 upon 0 form. So it's an indeterminate form. So what we do, we use the method of factorization. In such problems, we use the method of factorization. So in this, what we do, limit x tends to 1, x minus 1 into 2 minus x upon the denominator, we can factorize as x minus 1 into x plus 1. A square minus b square is a minus b into a plus b. Now here x is tending to 1. X is not equal to 1. So this x minus 1 will be a value close to 0 but not exactly equal to 0. So we can cancel off. It may be like 0.0001 or minus 0.0001. It may be one of them. Both will be equal. We can cancel this one. Now this 0 by 0 form is eliminated now. Now the numerator, you get 2 minus 1 and the denominator 1 plus 1. So you get 1 upon 2. This is the answer. So 1 upon 2 is the answer. So this is the score. So 8 students made 8 plus 3. So 7 students answered correctly. 8 plus 3, 11 answered mistake. So you look into it. So this was a simple problem on, factorization. All right. This is a problem on factorization. Next. So I hope you get, as I'm solving here, you should take down the solution. All right. Even if you have solved correctly, I may give some different nuances. So you should take that into account. So next, fourth question. Next, go to the fourth question. Now this is x tending to infinity. X cube plus x by x power 4 minus 3x square plus 1. So this is the question. Please solve. Three answers so far. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Seven more students to answer. Six more students to answer. This is the question. Limit x tends to infinity, x cube plus x by x power 4 minus 3x square plus 1. Good. Two more students to answer. Answer quickly. One more student to answer. Okay. Good. So I will also answer. Okay, let's look at the solution screen. Okay. So 9 students have answered correctly. 10 students have made mistake. Now let us see where we have gone wrong. Okay. Now, when you practice in maths, if you have made a mistake, you should not worry about it. There is something lacking in the concept. We have not understood the concept properly, or we don't know how to apply the concept. So we can rectify the concept and we will be able to solve the question much more accurately. So you should not worry about mistakes. You have to learn from the mistakes. Many times students, what they do, when the answers go wrong, 3-4 answers go wrong, they get panicked and they leave, and then they will not try to understand what was the mistake. We have to learn from our mistakes. We should not allow the mistakes to grow. That is the heart at the heart of learning is this. We learn from mistakes. Mistakes are very good. Don't think mistakes are bad. Mistakes are very good. It will help us overcome our misunderstandings and misconceptions. Okay, so now x is approaching infinity. So this is now a type of infinity by infinity form. Numerator goes to infinity, denominator goes to infinity. So this is an indeterminate form, infinity by infinity. Now x is approaching plus infinity. It is not minus infinity, it is plus infinity. It's a huge positive value. Now, as x approaches infinity, good thing is 1 upon x will approach, because x is approaching infinity. 1 by x will approach 0. It will approach 0 from the positive side. Okay, because it's x is a positive number, so 1 by x will also be a positive number. Okay, so now we can use this. So what we should do whenever we have an algebraic expression like this, a rational function, an algebraic expression, we should divide both numerator and denominator by the highest power. Divide both numerator and denominator by x power 4. So what happens? We will get limit x tends to infinity. When I divide by x power 4, the numerator, I'll get x cube by x power 4, the first term, I'll get 1 by x. The second one will be 1 by x cube divided by the new denominator. When I divide by x power 4, I'll get 1 minus 3 upon x square plus 1 by x power 4. Now, as x tends to infinity, what happens? The numerator 1 by x tends to 0. This is 1 by x whole cube, so 0 cube tending to 0 cube. 1 minus 3 into 0 square plus 0 power 4. So all are zeros. So I get numerator going to 0, denominator going to 1. So I get the value 0. This is how we need to do it. Actually, I am taking this much steps, but a problem like this, I will see and put the answer. Why? See here, see the logic. Which degree is greater? In the numerator, the polynomial is of higher degree or the denominator? Anybody can answer, participator? In the denominator. So denominator, the degree is higher. So when x approaches infinity, this will dominate more than the numerator. So the denominator will be much larger number than the numerator. So when the degree of the denominator is greater than the degree of the numerator, straight away we get the limit becoming 0. All right. So because denominator becomes a very large value compared to the numerator, so the limit value approaches 0. That's the idea. So next question. Another question of this type. So let's check question 5. Look at question 5. X power 4 minus 5x upon x square minus 3x plus 1. As x tends to infinity. Let's see the answers. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 answers. More? Okay, good. Let's look. I'll also answer. Okay, so so this time more students answered correct. Okay, once the logic is understood, more students have answered correct compared to the uh, previous case. So what is the logic now? So this is the question. Limit x tends to infinity, x power 4 minus 5x upon x square minus 3x plus 1. Okay. Again, numerator is dominating now than the denominator. So this will go to infinity. You just have to check the coefficients of the highest powers. That's all. The coefficient of the highest powers will be important in determining this. Both are positive here. The answer is straight away plus infinity. Okay. The way to do it is divide by the highest power. X power 4, both the numerator and the denominator. So we get 1 minus 5 upon x cube upon 1 upon x square minus 3 upon x cube plus 1 upon x power 4. We get 1 minus 5 times 0 by 0 minus 0 plus 0. So of course the denominator is not equal to 0, it is approaching 0. So 1 upon 0, actually 1 upon 0 strictly it's a not a defined entity if the denominator is equal to 0, but this is limits. The denominator is tending to 0 and both numerator and denominator are positive. Okay, so so this will be equal to plus infinity. 1 divided by a very small number, it will go to infinity. All right, next. Question 6. Again, an infinity by infinity form. This, I hope everybody answers correct. Yeah, answers have started coming. Good. So far all answers are correct. Good. One, two, three, four students have to answer. Please answer. One more. Yes. Okay. The number of mistakes have reduced, but however, this shouldn't have gone wrong. If you have understood the procedure, this shouldn't have gone wrong. Okay. So now listen carefully. This is the question. Limit x tends to infinity. 2 plus 3x minus 3x cube upon 1 plus 5x square plus 3x cube. Both are of the same degree. So divide numerator and denominator by the highest power, x cube. We get limit x tends to infinity. 2 upon x cube plus 3 upon x square, yeah, minus 3 upon 1 upon x cube plus 5 upon x plus 3. And as x tends to infinity, reciprocals of x will tend to 0. So you get 2 into 0 cube, which is 0, plus 3 into 0, minus 3 by 0 plus 5 into 0 plus 3. So we are left with minus 3 upon 3, which is equal to minus 1, which is equal to minus 1. Okay. All right. So again, for me, if I see this question, it's a direct answer. I don't have to use the pen also. Direct seeing and answering. Why? Because I will go by the coefficients of the highest power of x in the numerator and in the denominator. The ratio of these two will be my answer, because you see here, once I divide by x cube, what is left is only the coefficients of the highest powers of x. So you can save a lot of time if you have a concept is right, you are in full grip of the concept. You see this and directly you divide the coefficient of the highest power in the numerator divided by the coefficient of the same highest power in the denominator. Of course, this will not work if degrees are different in the numerator and denominator. You have to be careful. All right. Next question. So this was about dealing with limit as x approaching infinity. This all three were infinity by infinity forms. We dealt with 0 by 0 form. 3 questions we dealt. Then we dealt 3 questions infinity by infinity form. Now, next. Okay, go to the next question. See the next question in class time. Now it's an under root. Limit x tending to 5, x minus 1 minus 2, x minus 1 under root minus 2 upon x minus 5. Okay, solve quickly. Question pattern has changed. I'll just give another 30 seconds. Those of you who have made mistakes, please recheck why you made mistake. Last two students, quickly solve, give your answer. So this is a problem which is having an under root, and when you substitute 5 as x tends to 5, when you substitute 5, we get under root of 5 minus 1 is under root 4, which is 2 minus 2, and 5 minus 5. It is a 0 by 0 form. Okay, this is a 0 by 0 form. And now there is no way of factorization. So we use the method of rationalization. One was method of factorization. You factor out the factors which are going to 0 and you cancel. The method of rationalization, what we do is we rationalize the numerator. So we multiply and divide by the conjugate surd. This is a minus b. We are multiplying with a plus b. Okay, so that it becomes a square minus b square. So that is removed. That the under root is removed. So we get x minus 1 minus 2 square by x minus 5 into under root of x minus 1 plus 2. So what we get is numerator, we get x minus 5, and denominator is already x minus 5 into under root of x minus 1 plus 2. Now, because x is tending to 5, x minus 5 will tend to 0. So both are common factors. We can strike off the common factors. So what we are left with is the denominator, which doesn't go to 0. Numerator is 1 and the denominator is under root of 5 minus 1, that is 4, under root of 4 plus 2. So it is 2 plus 2, it is 1 by 4. So answer is 1 upon 4. Okay, answer is 1 upon 4. This is the method of rationalization. Okay, look at the next question. So I hope you have taken down. Those of you made a mistake, you can take down. I'll give time for the other question also. Okay, others can answer. If you have copied the solution, okay, others can answer the next question. All right. 1, 2, 3, 3 more left. Good. So now this is again, if we observe this is an infinity minus infinity form. Now we don't know, infinity minus infinity can be infinity or it can be minus infinity. Depends on which number is greater. If the first number is much greater than the second number, it will go to plus infinity. If the second number is much greater than the first number, it will go to minus infinity. And if they are both equally spaced, they are going at the equal pace to infinity, then you will get a constant value. So how does this happen? So that we don't know. So that is why it's an indeterminate form. You cannot say that it is infinity, zero, or a constant. So for this reason, again, we will do rationalization to remove this and see. So we do a rationalization technique again. So multiply and divide by, the conjugate. So you will get, I'm writing steps here, but you can skip the steps in the exam, while you should directly be able to write. Because I'm teaching you, I'll have to write these steps, but personally, I don't prefer writing steps like this for an objective type exam. I would directly write x square minus of x square plus x by x plus under root of x square plus x. So I get limit x tends to infinity, x square minus x, x square minus x square plus x. Numerator x square and x square cancels. I am left with minus x. And denominator, I have x plus under root of x square plus x. Now what I'll do, it is now infinity by infinity form with a negative sign. I will divide now by x. So I'll get limit x tends to infinity. All right, minus 1 by 1 plus. Now when I divide by x and I take that x under the root, then that x becomes x square. Okay, I'm actually dividing by x, but then I take that x within the root and it becomes x square. Okay, so this is limit x tends to infinity minus 1 upon 1 plus under root of 1, x square by x square is 1 plus 1 by x. So now this is minus 1 by 1 plus under root of 1 plus 0. So this is minus 1 by 1 plus 1, that is 2 in the denominator. So minus 1 upon 2 is the answer. Minus 1 upon 2 is the answer. So here, so how many corrects? So 13 students have given correct answer. 12, 13 includes me, so 12. So this is infinity minus infinity form. Now let us look one more of this type, infinity minus infinity. Please check your question. Another infinity by minus infinity. Now the question is x tends to minus infinity. So please do this problem carefully. Again, follow the same steps that I've mentioned. Seven more students to answer. Four more students to answer. All right. There's a trick here. Actually, this question has been tricked. Based on the previous question, you just applied the procedure blindly. The problem here is x is tending to minus infinity. When x is tending to minus infinity, x square will tend to plus infinity. So x square plus 1 goes to plus infinity, under root will go to plus infinity. No problem. Now look at minus x. This is minus of minus infinity. So what you get is first term is going to positive infinity and second term is also going to positive infinity. The sum of these will go to infinity only. You don't have to do a rationalization because this is not an infinity minus infinity form. All right, because x is tending to minus infinity. That is the trick. If x was tending to plus infinity, then you will have to do a rationalization. Then, of course, you will get 1 upon x square plus 1 by under root plus x, and then okay, and then answer you will get tending to 0. Okay, as x tends to infinity, you will get 1 by 0 form. So 1 by infinity form, you answer you will get 0. That answer is their option, and that's why I think most of the students have marked it that way. Let us see. So 10 students have marked answer 0 because you did a rationalization. You forgot that x is tending to minus infinity. Okay, if you did a rationalization, when you are applying the limit, you have to be careful. Suppose you did a rationalization, you will get x square plus 1 minus x square upon under root of x square plus 1 plus x. Now I am doing limit x tends to minus infinity. So this cancels. So I have limit x tends to minus infinity 1 upon under root of x square plus 1 plus x. This should ring a bell that x is tending to minus infinity. This is plus infinity. This is minus infinity. I am getting a possible 0 at the bottom in the denominator, which may not be right. Okay. So then we have to think here. You cannot write this as infinity. It is we cannot know. We don't know what it is. So a more direct approach is this x square plus 1 and x. Okay. Now last question. So this is clear. This is just a trick. You have to observe and do it, not just blindly go by formula. Formulas are important, but in calculus, you have to keep your eyes wide open. So now I'll just introduce one of the standard limits, standard algebraic limits. One problem we will do on that and we'll end for today. So one of the standard algebraic limits, this is limit x tends to a, x to the power n minus a to the power n by x minus a. This is n a to the power n minus 1. Okay, this is a standard algebraic limit. We have to remember this, and it is not a difficult thing to remember. I will tell you L'Hospital's rule also. If you get stuck, you can use L'Hospital's rule to solve. Okay, this is a standard. So the next question is based on this. So the last question for today is based on this formula. So just apply. You will solve within just half a minute, less than half a minute. Please solve. Just apply the formula. Let's see the answers. Very good. That's direct formula substitution. Very good. Very good. One, two, three, four, five students solve more. Give the answers quickly. N a to the power n minus 1. As x approaches a, n a to the power n minus 1. Last two. Last two. Answer quickly. That's not a. Not a difficult one. So limit x tending to 2, x power 5 minus 32, which is 2 power 5. 32 is 2 power 5 minus x minus 2 is nothing but n 2 power 5 minus 1. So 5 into 2 power 4. So 5 into 16, which is equal to 80. So answer is 80. Okay, answer is 80. All right. So you can go to the so with this for today's session we'll end. I will try to upload questions on algebraic limits. I will just the algebraic limits. I will upload at least 15 questions or so for you to practice. All right, basic practice, and after that we can improve upon. Next, we'll have other trigonometric limits and other limits, then some complicated cases also. So next week we will have one more full dedicated session on limits, maybe even more, because limits, I'll just share something with you. You will understand the importance. See, this is, I have a question bank of all the not updated, but a old list. I'm updating it for almost like 10 years. Questions of gate. Okay, now you just see questions on gate, on functions, basic functions. There are some questions, but not many. Limits, you just see the limits. All right, how many questions in the 10-year span? And I have to add another 5 to 6 years now. So 24 questions in the span of 10 years. All right. And continuity differentiability, you just see here. Continuity and differentiability, basic concept. CS, computer science department, mechanical department, civil department, mechanical, production, electrical, industrial. These two, they are general. So I think for most departments. So all departments, around 12 questions in 12 years. And then application of derivatives, this is the maximum weightage. Maximum weightage, you see the number of questions. It has mean value theorems, maxima, minima, and series, Taylor series, and that is the section. And sometimes tangents and normals also comes. So how many questions you have, you just see. "41 questions within 10 years in different um, departments." That means so much weightage. So limits is a very commonly occurring questions, and application of derivatives is commonly up there. Sometimes derivatives are also given. So this is very, very important. And of course, in integrals, you have definite integrals, so many questions on different integrals. But the maximum is on application of derivatives. So it is very important that you take calculus seriously. Okay, that's the idea I wanted to share. So that's why I'll spend on spend more time on those questions that get more weightage in GATE compared to the others.